How to take care of yourself is about the first place sustainability begins. It's a lot about survival and how to maintain yourself in relationship, in conflict with inside yourself, or confusion or difficulty, and in changing environments. So it really is actually all about sustainability on a very personal level, in the way that we interact with all those different places, individuals, environments. In the case of ourselves, when we don't know what to do, facing unknown situations, or we have conflict or challenge internally. So those places, we could say, are our first understanding that is actually what we're born with. What the Chinese would refer to as pre-birth intelligence, natural intelligence. So if we understand that we all share that with each other, we all pretty much have the same thing going on with that. We all come in with a certain amount of understanding about common sense. And that at that point, after we're born, the other half of intelligence is revealed, which would be called the post-birth education, what you learn after you're born. Ideally, those two worlds are equal. That you keep your common sense and your natural intelligence, and that everything that you learn after you're born is united with that. That, in other words, neither one dominates each other, but they are accessible at all times, in all places, in all relations, and form the foundation for unraveling unknown situations and knowing what to do, where our boundaries are, how to interact, things that are often commonly lost at this point in society. Part of that reason of them being lost has to do with the separation that we gain from generations of control. Relearning how to learn is the basis for the practice. Returning back to your natural intelligence and uniting it with your post-birth education, all the things that you've learned. A lot of the things that we've learned in our life are not so useful. If you look at history in 4th, 5th, and 6th grade, most of that is a memorization process of things that you won't ever use in your life. And so a lot of education, public education, is like that, which doesn't really teach us practical applications of that post-birth education. In earth-based traditions, post-birth education, or what's learned after you're born, has everything to do with your daily life. So it's very practical. So ideals of what a human being could be, the higher qualities of a human being, and the pragmatic aspects of them, what you use on a practical daily level, unite themselves in a common understanding that's shared by everybody. That was a natural way that we all learned before everything got civilized. It makes you wonder what that word really means, civilized. And if we look at our condition in society at this point, we could say that there's probably a question about that. That perhaps we didn't unite our common understandings in time with the practical ways that we decided we would be creative, the forms of intelligence. For if we did that, we would it would not be such a stretch for us to see that making something that doesn't biodegrade very well probably wouldn't have been something we spent a lot of time with. Or that creating all the forms of pollution, we would actually have a feeling about that. And that's a lot what we've lost, is the intelligence dominates our feeling. So it's not a big stretch for us to look out and the first time you saw a car and you got behind it accidentally and you kind of choked from what came out of it. Now, how did we forget about that? What did we say to ourselves that made us think, well, that's okay? Because you had a very direct feeling, right?
I said, I'm never going to drive a car. I'm going to get a horse when I can.
There you go. There you go.
Didn't happen.
So, you know, there are lots of things like that that we could say were obvious, but we had to override in order to go on from day to day. Feel when everywhere you look, people throw trash down or accumulate somewhere, or the air is getting worse and worse, or we have things that we can't use that just go to the dump, and we know that they don't biodegrade. Things like that. There's many things like that. Noise pollution, all kinds of interference that we have with each other. There's just a list that's longer than we could speak about. And yet, when you look at it from the perspective of where we are now, what can you do? Each person could ask themselves, what can I do to help the situation? And oftentimes your eyes roll back in your head because there's so many things, so many problems. Where would I begin? So my suggestion might be that the place we could begin is to start to align with ourselves, return back to ourselves, and let those things in a little bit. In other words, that feeling that you had to cover up because you didn't know what to do with it, maybe we could uncover a little bit. It's not to say that we'll always answer everything right away, but if we hope to answer anything, we have to uncover it. We have to be true to ourselves first. In the practice of Tai Chi, in the lineage of it, they say there's one quality that was first before anything. To be considered to be a practitioner or to be taught, one quality was the most important. Because almost everybody here in the room is, not quite everybody, most of the room is my practitioners, people who practice with me. They know the answer to this because I go over it over and over. So the one quality is sincerity. Sincerity to yourself. So if you never break that line, or that if you know you have, you can begin to reunite it and understand how important it is. And we don't have time to do everything that needs to be done individually. But we do have time to correct ourselves internally and begin to be a vessel for helping, finding our place where we might help, where we might give back, to help things correct themselves a little bit. I don't think there's anybody alive on the planet right now who doesn't think something needs to happen in that area, that we need to redirect, correct some of the things that we haven't thought about as much as we should have ahead of time. So the practice allows us to first connect in from the inside. When I started this conversation, I talked about how we look at sustainability within. But this is really about starting from the inside, feeling where you're at, and correcting, helping yourself from the inside. Return back to your true self. And as you do that, you find that you need to return back to your senses, and that your senses all connect back in to the first brain. And the first brain is not here. The first brain's here. So all the new sciences now are speaking about what indigenous people have always known, which is to feel their environments and to come from the heart. And all the senses all track back to the heart first. And from the heart, they percolate up to the brain. That's how thought was originally supposed to come about. Not from the cleverness or the analytical memorization, interpretive part of the brain, but from the senses. Because we have our senses because there's a causal world. And they interact with that, all those causals, the causes that are. We have eyes because of light. We feel because there are other things, other life forms out there, and so on. We taste because we eat, because food distinguishes things for us, things that are healthy and things that aren't. So all of our senses are a pragmatic application of life. They have to be there to entertain